If you've ever felt anxious about sharing your beautiful children's book with others, if you have been hesitant to move forward because you have been worried about making mistakes, then this video is for you. Hi there, I'm Eevi, an award-winning children's author and ghostwriter over on eevijones.com and the creator of Children's Book University. I create videos specifically for children's authors, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of my videos. With my very first children's book's 12-year anniversary coming up, I wanted to share the 7 biggest mistakes that I made with this book. And perhaps even more importantly, the lessons I learned that I have been able to apply ever since and that have gotten me to where I am today as a full-time author. Many moons ago, I fought my way through the back then not yet widely accepted print-on-demand self-publishing world. With no one there to really follow and learn from in the children's book world, I wrote, illustrated, and published my very first children's book all through trial and error, mostly piecing things together from those that covered genres other than children's books. So I made my fair share of mistakes. And I share this because I want you to see that we all start somewhere and that we all make mistakes. Yet this shouldn't stop us from moving forward. Just like I always say that our first draft will rarely be the last or our best. I truly believe that even if our first book may not be executed perfectly, it's still absolutely worth it. Over the years, I've learned of so many aspiring authors that because they believe everything has to be perfect before moving forward, they halt their entire process and never get to share their work at all. Well, today I'm here to show you that yes, we will make mistakes, but also yes, we are going to be okay. In one of my now nearly 70 children's books, I wrote, "All progress begins with brave decisions we make and accepting the fact that we will make mistakes." And so by showing you my mistakes that I made with my very first children's book, I'm hoping to encourage you to choose to be brave too and to move forward nonetheless. So let's jump right in. My very first children's book I ever wrote, I truly wrote out of desperation. My back then newly potty-trained toddler had a really impossibly hard time transitioning from his potty chair to a regular toilet. I successfully used lots of really great children's books to prepare him to be potty-trained. So naturally, I tried to now also use a book that would help him with this transition. But to my surprise, there were absolutely no children's books on this topic at all. Beverly clearly once wrote, "If you don't see the book you want on the shelves, write it." So I decided to write and illustrate my own. And I called it Teeny Toddy Uses Mama's Big Potty, Transitioning from Potty Chair to Toilet. And I was so proud, even though by the time I got to publish it, my son had already outgrown it by about a year and a half. But looking back, there are 7 big mistakes and regrets that really stick out. Numbers 6 and 7 being my biggest regrets by far. Mistake number 1 is something I shared many times before, and that was to prepare my illustrations without having looked into the available trim sizes KDP or back then CreateSpace was offering. And so every single one of my illustrations that I created during my already very sparse free time ended up being completely unusable because they were much too small. I mention this mistake so often because it's truly burned itself into my memory, because that's the mistake that made me nearly give up. It cost me so much time. Thankfully, I illustrated this book myself, so at least I didn't incur any additional costs due to my mistake. But that's why it took so much longer, because I essentially had to redraw every single one of my 40+ illustrations. So my number 1 takeaway from this humongous mistake is to begin the illustration phase with knowing the available trim size first. I have a whole separate video that talks all about trim sizes, how to choose them, and what to pay attention to, so I made sure to share that in the description below. Mistake number 2 was the use of my fonts. I wish I could say that it's only about the font on my cover, but it's actually the inside as well. For my cover, I remember thinking that I had struck gold and that I had discovered the best, most perfect font ever. But because of its unique shape and features, it actually made it really difficult to read. On top of that, the red background and the light blue color of the title were clashing, making it even harder to identify the lettering. Because I had never done anything like this before, I also didn't realize that with the program I was using at the time, the way I increased the font size caused the resolution of the lettering to be really low, so it almost looks like it's bleeding into the background. Having worked with hundreds and hundreds of authors now, I've found that these are very common mistakes. So I have a whole separate video all about the biggest do's and don'ts when it comes to our covers. So I made sure to share it in the description below. Now this right here is what I decided I wanted my font to look like on the inside. I painstakingly filled in every single letter that had an enclosed area. So every O, every B, D, and so many other letters. I went to town and diligently filled in all these letter openings with red, for no apparent reason at all. Knowing what I know now, there are so many more creative and better ways that help us make our text look more interesting. So if you need ideas with lots and lots of examples from the traditional publishing world, I made sure to share my 2 videos on just that below. Mistake number 3 was a typo that snuck its way in, even though I had proofread the book many times. When I was holding my very first children's book in my hands for the very first time, I was just so overjoyed. And so it felt like the world came crashing down on me when I saw this now very obvious typo. What made this even worse was that because I was so excited, I had already ordered so many author copies, which then of course all had that same typo. I see a lot of authors feeling absolutely devastated when they find a typo in their book. And I want you to know that it happens to nearly everyone. And it's absolutely okay. Thankfully, we can simply fix that typo and re-upload our interior files in no time at all. Many of us authors do, even the seasoned ones. My biggest ninja tip here would be to hold back with any big orders of author copies, even if we are really excited, and make use of the proof copies we can request and order from KDP. Share those with a few people and then take it from there. Mistake number 4 was that my story that was written in rhyme contained so many what I now call filler rhymes or filler words. And what I mean by filler words here is simply a line in our verse that doesn't really add to our story. It's just there to complete the rhyme. For example, 2 of my abbreviated lines in Teeny Toddy read, "Mama uses her big potty every day. Now it's Toddy's turn. Hooray!" Knowing what I know now, it's so obvious that the added hooray was a filler word here because I had a really hard time finding a good rhyme for the word day. If today I were to tweak it, I would instead write something like, "When he sees Mama go potty like grown-ups do, Toddy knows he is ready to now try it too." So with just a tiny tweak, we can further or add to our story that seems a bit less like a filler while still staying true to that original idea for that particular verse. So my takeaway here that stayed with me ever since is to not ever settle for a rhyme and to instead challenge myself with every single verse to make it the best it can possibly be. Reading my Toddy story now, so many years later, there are so many cringe moments. But we all have to begin somewhere, right? Lots of practice and many books later, I am now a ghostwriter for New York Times and USA Today bestselling authors, all through believing in myself and trying over and over again, not letting my first book stop me. I love writing in rhyme, so if you would like to look at some of the rules I have created for myself over the years and how you too can apply them to your writing, I have shared my separate video on how we can improve our rhymes in the description below. Mistake or regret number 5 is that I didn't really know how to apply, leverage, and use my editorial reviews more effectively. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I reached out to all sorts of influencers and got so many amazing editorial reviews from well-known potty training experts. And while I did add some of these to the back cover of my book and to my Amazon sales page, I could and should have done so much more with this amazing feedback. I went all in and identified the right people, but then didn't really know where to take it from there. So my biggest takeaway here is that getting editorial reviews and media coverage only takes us so far. I have been on some of the biggest entrepreneurial podcasts and have been featured in places like Forbes and Business Insider. But unless we know what to do with this and how to leverage it, it won't really do anything for us and our book. That's something I've been trying to share for years. So I also have a separate video on how to leverage media wins and editorial review wins like this and shared it in the description below. And if you would like to know how I went about reaching out to all these influencers, I have shared my influencer outreach mini course below as well. Mistake and humongous regret number 6 was that I didn't really know how to take negative feedback. When I received my very first really negative feedback for Teeny Toddy a year after I had published it, I was so crushed. I was about to launch one of my next books, but after I received that review, I really just wanted to throw in the towel and never share a book of mine again. This review right here made me sit on my book that I had been planning to publish in 2014 for nearly a year. Looking back, the low rating wasn't even necessarily my book's fault. It simply wasn't the right fit for the reader. But the damage was done. My feelings were hurt and my overall book rating was really down. And I just really wanted to hide. But then I received this review right here that unfortunately I didn't see until much later because I was still hiding. The review reads, "Party success, excellent book. It convinced my toddler grandson to transition from freestanding baby potty to the big potty." And oh my goodness, this right here helped me remember what my book was all about. Not my ego, but about helping little ones that struggled with something my own son had struggled with before. And so ever since, I haven't let any reviews stop or deter me from writing for all those little boys and girls that need a story just like mine. I know that's something so many of us children's authors and really authors of any genre struggle with. Negative reviews hurt. They don't feel good. Yet there will always be someone that won't like our work. And that's okay. If it helps just one little boy or girl, then our book has accomplished its goal and it's all been worth it. But I know it hurts, so I have a whole separate video that helps us with feedback just like that. So I made sure to share it in the description below. And mistake number 7 is the one that I probably regret the most, and that I now know would have made the biggest difference when it comes to the success of my book, and would have made the biggest difference in countering that negative review I received. And that mistake was to launch without any type of plan, strategy, and launch team. I really just thought that if I write it, they'll come. Well, they did not. And my low number of reviews probably didn't help. But I didn't know. I didn't know that successful authors followed step-by-step launch strategies. And I didn't know that successful authors had something called a launch or street team that would help them with their book. So instead, I felt really lost. Until I talked to my friend Nicholas Sansbury Smith, a New York Times bestselling author of science fiction and fantasy novels, who instantly has hundreds of reviews each time he publishes a new book. And so I asked him, "Nick, how in the world do you get all these reviews?" And that's when I learned about having a launch strategy and a launch team. And yes, having these things in place is one of the biggest game changers for us authors. And I wish I had known about these things much, much sooner, which is why I created 2 of my favorite resources to help with just that. The perfect launch team builder to help us build our own launch team that is going to support us in our beautiful children's book during our launch. Having our own launch team is truly essential, and so I am really so happy to now have a resource to help you with just that. And for even more detailed, day-by-day, step-by-step support during the 30 days leading up to our book launch, I have put together my tested and proven 30-day launch mastery. Now you may be asking, but Eevi, why did you never make any changes to Teeny Toddy? I could have easily created a new cover, exchanged the fonts, tweak and rewrite the story, and perhaps even relaunch it. But I decided to see it as a reminder of how far I have come, and that it's okay to start without having all the answers. What matters most is that we are brave enough to take action despite not having all the answers, and that we are brave enough to move forward even though we already know that we will make mistakes. And so by showing you my mistakes that I made with my very first children's book, I am hoping to have encouraged you to choose to be brave too, to know that perfection isn't a thing, that making mistakes is okay, and to move forward nonetheless. I so hope you found this video really helpful no matter where you are currently at with your creation of your beautiful children's book. You are doing so great. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't yet. It really encourages me to keep making free videos for you just like this one. Here's to moving toward our dreams nonetheless. Bye!